In the endless expanse of a dusty plain, a stranger's gaze pierces the horizon, silence amplifying every breath. This moment captures the essence of spaghetti westerns, a genre that redefines cinematic storytelling with raw intensity and moral shadows. Spaghetti westerns emerged in the early 1960s from Italy's vibrant film industry at a time when traditional American westerns had begun to fade in popularity. Filmmakers in Rome, facing budget constraints and a desire for fresh narratives, turned to the mythic American frontier, but infused it with European sensibilities. These films were often shot in the rugged landscapes of southern Spain, standing in for the Wild West, and featured multinational casts speaking multiple languages, later dubbed for international release. The genre arose from a mix of influences: Hollywood's classic tales of heroism, Japanese samurai epics emphasizing honor and revenge, and Italy's own post-war neorealism, which brought gritty realism to the screen. What made spaghetti westerns matter was their bold departure from convention. They introduced anti-heroes driven by greed rather than justice, amplified violence to critique society, and used innovative visuals to heighten emotional depth. This evolution not only revitalized the Western, but also challenged audiences to question traditional notions of good and evil, paving the way for more complex storytelling in global cinema. To understand the spaghetti Western, we need to rewind to the post-World War II era. American Westerns, once Hollywood's bread and butter, were riding into the sunset by the late 1950s. Icons like John Wayne and films like Shane had dominated, painting the frontier as a place of clear-cut heroes, moral certainty, and manifest destiny. But audiences were growing weary of the formula, too clean, too predictable. Enter Italy, a country rebuilding from war with a booming film industry centered in Rome's Cinecittà studios. Italian directors, inspired by Hollywood but constrained by budgets, began churning out their own versions of westerns. What started as cheap imitations quickly evolved into something bolder, darker, and uniquely European. These films weren't just misunderstood as rip-offs, they were a bold reinvention, infusing the genre with cynicism, violence, and operatic flair that Hollywood wouldn't touch. Named spaghetti westerns by dismissive American critics, they became a phenomenon, producing over 500 films in a decade and launching stars like Clint Eastwood into global fame. Now, let's break this down like a gunslinger dismantling his revolver, piece by piece, to see what makes it fire so effectively. At the core of how these films were made was ingenuity born from necessity. Budgets were razor thin, often under $200,000 compared to Hollywood's millions. Directors like Sergio Leone shot in the arid deserts of Almeria, Spain, standing in for the American Southwest, cheaper and more accessible than flying to Arizona. Crews were multinational: Italian directors, Spanish locations, German co-financing, and actors from everywhere, all dubbed later in post-production. This dubbing, often criticized, actually allowed for a stylized, almost theatrical delivery, where dialogue took a backseat to visuals and sound. But why do they work so damn well? Take the technical mastery. Leone's direction in A Fistful of Dollars, his 1964 breakthrough. Inspired by Akira Kurosawa's Yojimbo, itself a nod to Dashiell Hammett, Leone stripped the story to its bones. A nameless stranger plays two rival gangs against each other in a border town. The pacing is deliberate, almost torturous, building suspense through long silences and extreme close-ups on sweating faces, eyes darting like predators. Remember that iconic standoff? The camera lingers on Eastwood's squint, the villain's sneer, the ticking watch. It's like a pressure cooker about to explode. This wasn't lazy filmmaking. It was a deliberate choice to heighten drama, turning every scene into a mini-opera. Artistic decisions amplified this. Heroes became anti-heroes, cynical mercenaries driven by greed, not glory. In The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Eastwood's Blondie is no saint. He's a bounty hunter who hangs his partner for profit, only to save him at the last second for mutual gain. Violence was raw and unflinching, with squibs exploding blood in ways that shocked audiences used to bloodless shootouts. And the music? Ennio Morricone's scores were revolutionary. electric guitars twanging like whips, whistles piercing the silence, choirs chanting like ancient rituals. In Once Upon a Time in the West, that harmonica motif isn't just background, it's a character, foreshadowing revenge like a ghost from the past. Of course, constraints bred creativity, but also challenges. Censorship was brutal. Many films were cut for violence, like the infamous ear slicing in Django, which influenced Tarantino decades later. Political undertones added layers. Directors like Sergio Leone infused films like The Big Gun Down with anti-imperialist messages, critiquing American foreign policy through allegories of corrupt sheriffs and oppressed peasants. Compare this to modern examples. Quentin Tarantino's Django Unchained echoes the original Django's brutality, but amps it with explicit racial commentary, while The Mandalorian borrows the lone gunslinger trope for space opera. Concrete examples abound. Take Duck, You Sucker, Leone's explosive tale of revolution in Mexico, where dynamite blasts symbolize chaotic change, or My Name is Nobody, blending comedy with homage through Terence Hill's slapstick gunslinging. Peeling back these layers reveals profound insights about the craft of filmmaking and the medium itself. Spaghetti westerns showed that style could be substance. Leone's wide-angle lenses distorted faces into caricatures, emphasizing inner ugliness over outer heroism. It's like looking at the American dream through a funhouse mirror, warped, exaggerated, but revealing truths about greed and power. They democratized cinema, proving you didn't need big stars or budgets to create icons. Eastwood was a TV actor before Leone cast him, transforming his stoic glare into a trademark. Information density was key. Facts about frontier life were woven subtly, like how duels weren't quick-draw myths, but tense standoffs, explained through action rather than exposition. This approach keeps viewers hooked, blending education with entertainment without ever feeling like a lecture. Or, why do these films still hold up in our CGI-saturated world? Because they tap into timeless human flaws, betrayal, vengeance, survival, in a visceral way. The moral ambiguity feels modern. In a post-Vietnam era, audiences craved heroes with the shades of gray, not black and white. They matter today as a reminder that cinema thrives on reinvention, pushing boundaries when genres stale. The legacy of spaghetti westerns is as vast as the deserts they depicted. They revived the western genre, inspiring Sam Peckinpah's Bloody the Wild Bunch and George Lucas's Star Wars, where Han Solo channels the cynical drifter. Tarantino owes his career to them. Reservoir Dogs lifts dialogue rhythms, Kill Bill homages the showdowns. Beyond film, they've influenced video games like Red Dead Redemption and music, with Morricone's themes sampled in hip-hop. Audiences flock to restorations and festivals, while creators like the Coen brothers nod to them in No Country for Old Men. People still talk about them because they captured a rebellious spirit, outsiders flipping the script on Hollywood dominance, proving innovation often comes from the fringes. So, what can we take away from this dusty trail of celluloid? Spaghetti westerns didn't just shoot up the box office, they gunned down conventions, reloading cinema with fresh ammunition. They remind us that great stories aren't bound by borders or budgets, they're forged in the fire of bold vision. And hey, if you've ever whistled along to a Morricone tune, you've felt their pull. What's your go-to spaghetti western moment? Drop it in the comments below, and if this deep dive lit your fuse, subscribe for more cinematic showdowns. Until next time, keep your eyes on the horizon.